Any broker owner that's listening to this, somebody hired you and took a chance on you at some point in your career. You're just paying that forward. You're just passing that on. And if you're going to bring that new person in, don't say, here's a desk and a phone and an internet. Say, this is how you become successful in this business.
Welcome back to Good Better Broker as we bring in Carrie Gusmus. She is the president and CEO of Aslan Home Lending in Denver, Colorado. Carrie, great to have you here.
Thanks. So nice to be here, Justin.
Well, you are a woman-owned, woman-led company at Aslan that's been around since 2019. Before that, you were in senior management on the retail side. You've got 30 plus years of experience in the business. And so much of your experience, Carrie, in mortgages is in hiring, training, and developing LOs. So I'm really excited to talk to you about that and your main goal, which is to grow productive originators. Tell our audience, how do you go about it?
We have a number of different ways that we grow productive originators, but one of our primary tools is by hiring new people or helping seasoned, tenured people to reset. So we have a very thorough process that we go through where we have a multiple interview process. We use assessment tools and other tools to make sure we're selecting the right people. And then we invest heavily in the folks that we bring on to our team, or our pride, as we like to call it, because we are Aslan Home Lending. And so Aslan is a lion. And so we have a pride.
As you know, there are so many different ways you can build a business, and some broker owners prefer to hire people with experience, and some are okay bringing in others with no previous experience. From your standpoint, why has it been a strategy that has worked well for you to hire people without previous mortgage experience?
Absolutely. We have a strong core group of seasoned people, and we are heavily reliant on them. So I want to be very clear that we're heavily reliant on them to make our strategy of bringing new people into the business successful. Somebody took a chance on all of us when we came into the business. No one was born in the mortgage business. And so we all started new at some point. I have found that bringing new people into the business means that I don't have to retrain bad habits or bad attitudes. They don't have any belief systems about what the market's doing or anything else. They just are more of a sponge. They're excited about a new opportunity and a new career, and they will take that coaching and training. And so it's just been an instrumental part of building an organization and a culture that is consistent with that one of caring and nurturing and service and excellence that we want, is bringing in those new folks.
Yeah, and it's worked out. We were talking before the interview, 3 of your top 5 originators were brand new to the industry before joining the company. When you think about that, what comes to mind?
It's true. It's crazy. So our number 1 originator actually had about 9 months, but that's brand new. And so when I look, I couldn't be more proud of them, first of all, and then just proud of what we've been able to grow and develop. Because if you look at the top 10, well, more than 50% of the top 10 were new originators that we trained in the business as well. It's such a worthwhile endeavor to help people grow and establish a business in what I would consider the right way and develop a life that they want. So I'm super proud of it.
Tell us a little bit about your learning model and the core principles of it and how it works to get these people trained up.
You bet. So this is a little bit of a long answer, so I apologize in advance, but there's a multitude of steps to it. It's not just, hey, we hire new people and we give them a phone and we say, knock yourself out. We lower some of the primary barriers, some of the greatest barriers that originators have. That's the focus of our training and development and coaching program. So the first barrier that people have is they say, I don't know who to call. But most of us take out our phone and have several hundred to several thousand contacts in our phone, not to mention our social channels and our other sphere of influence, whether it's churches or schools or kids teams or things like that. So we help them identify who their market is and help them realize that they know thousands of people. And what most people don't realize is that, and get kind of staggered, but go Google it or look it up on chat or something, 8 to 11% of everyone in America will move this year. And so you have to find them. That's the objective. First is you have to figure out who you know, because 8 to 11% of those folks are going to move. Second, you have to determine what is it you're going to say to them. There's many coaching organizations that will give you a script and say, you say this script over and over again until it sounds natural. I think that's horrible. One of the buzzwords these days is authenticity, right? And we've been teaching authenticity. I've been teaching authenticity for 20 years of sales training that I've done. And that is, write the scripts. If you say it more than twice, you're scripted. Does it work or not? And write the scripts that sound like you because you wrote them and they're things that you would want to say to people. And then we start to implement the more sexy things and the more fun things that they want to do. But having the discipline of knowing who you're going to talk to, knowing what you're going to say, having objection overcoming tactics ready and strategies ready before you get on the phone with someone, and then tracking and having the discipline to maintain that type of structure.
2 takeaways from what you just said. The sphere of influence piece, I think, is huge because, as you said, every single person with a phone has a built-in network in the palm of their hands. And sometimes we tend to overcomplicate things when you're thinking about who should I reach out to or where do I look for new business. Just go through your phone.
Yeah, you don't think about it.
Yeah. And the other one is that word you mentioned, and we use it a lot. I use it a lot on a daily basis, authenticity. It's great to have scripts. It's great to have a foundation and something to learn from and work from that is tried and tested, if you will. But is it going to sound natural coming from you if it's not something that you would say?
Right.
That's what I took from that. Is that part of the conversation you have with your LOs?
That's exactly the conversation. I'm talking to you. I'm looking at you. You're prepared for our conversation. You know yourself. You know the way that you speak. You know your pattern and your cadence. You took the time to learn about me so that you would know what to talk about. Why would salespeople approach any conversation in a different way or try to make themselves something that they're not? It's so much less stress. We can make making sales calls as stressful as going to the kitchen and getting a cup of coffee. Like, really, we can make it a very mundane activity by knowing our audience and then knowing who we are and what we want to say to people before we go to start making those calls.
And this speaks to a bigger issue, because part of your approach is that you believe that a lot of loan originators tend to overcomplicate things. Explain what you mean by that.
I do. I think that we do tend to overcomplicate things. If we think about the fundamentals of prospecting, of sales, as knowing our audience and what we're going to say to them and having discipline in doing those activities and then tracking them. I'm very fond of saying what gets tracked gets done. And then we think of events and classes and social media and lead triggers and all these other things. Those are like hanging a disco ball, right? Well, we want to hang the disco ball first. We want to complicate it. We want to learn the moves. We want to be John Travolta in his prime, and we want to be out there on the dance floor, but we're never calling anyone or seeing anyone. Those old school guerrilla type of sales and prospecting tactics that are just call the people, see the people. And granted, we might reach our audiences through different channels now. Maybe you're DMing them and maybe you're texting them. That might be where they prefer to be communicated with. But we just want the sexy stuff that seems like, oh, it's got to work so much better, because nobody ever talks about, I got to where I am in the grind. I got to where I am by doing the hard things every day, consistently over time. They all are influencers who have a 30-second video about how they did something sexy. So we all want to complicate it, and we try to bring it back down to do the simple things really well first.
Back to your coaching program for a moment. Just because you have something that works doesn't mean that you're not looking to make adjustments. And you told me that you're always tweaking it. So how are you going about that, and what are you looking for in terms of changes that you're considering?
I am always tweaking it, primarily to be relevant and to look at where is our audience. So I learned most of my strategies, I learned foundationally more than 30 years ago, and those are still things that work. But language has changed. Where our audience is found has changed. If I'm coaching with someone who is my age, then our audience is in a different place than when I'm coaching someone who is 25. One of our top producers is not even 30. And so that audience is someplace else. Or it may be, we have two top producers who come from backgrounds that are more diverse. And so their audience is in a different place. And so we're always looking at where are the people that you're talking to? Where can you find them? And what is going to be the most effective way to speak to them? Only in what are they looking for? Not in change your language, be someone other than you're not, other than who you are, but what are they actually, what do they need? And talk to them about what they need. So we're constantly tweaking and figuring out where should people be, what should they be saying, what's really relevant, and keeping current.
People are probably listening to this and wondering not just about the methods that you use to train your LOs, but also about finding them in the first place. And I want to ask you about some of the assessment tools that you use to identify the people who would be a fit to work at Aslan.
So anyone who has ever done any recruiting knows that it, if I can say, absolutely sucks often to be recruiting those seasoned professionals, whether they're very productive or not. I've talked with people who did $3 million in a year, which maybe was 6 loans in their market, and they still have this thought process of I'm a high value originator. Whereas new people coming into the business, they're much more interested in the business, and it's much more of an interview process. So we do post ads for them. We work in partnership with UWM because obviously having new people who are interested, get a lot of people call into UWM. We do college career fairs. So we source our candidates from a number of different methods and areas, and then we put them through a multiple interview process as though we were hiring what most people would say, well, if I was hiring a staff person, I'd do that. But if I'm hiring a loan officer, I've got to be recruiting them and calling them and urging them to come. And we're not urging people to come until we know that they're the right person. So we go through a 3 interview process, which includes a panel interview, and we include random people within our organization. We just ask who's available and who'd like to participate, and any loan officer in our organization can participate in those panel interviews to make sure that people feel like a fit for us culturally, and they get to learn and ask questions candidly from people who do the job every day. Then we give them several different assessments. So typically by the time we hire, we know that the person can do the job. We still don't know if they will do the job, but we know that they can actually be successful both in our environment and in our culture at Aslan, but also in the industry as a sales professional, as an originator.
A couple minutes ago, you were speaking to the notion that, being a top producer can be somewhat subjective depending on the person, who they are, and what their goals might be. You also believe that being a productive originator doesn't necessarily mean being a top producer. What does it mean?
Right. So being a productive originator, one, make a living. This is too hard of a business to not make a living, but to be a top producer, to be highly productive, that equates to more than just the volume that you do. And we are constantly focused on a more holistic approach to people being just the best person and having the most fulfilled life that they can have. Our objective is to have every originator with average volume of $2 million a month or $24 million a year. That is ultimately, that would be our minimum. We'd like to organizationally have 100 loan officers that do $24 million a year or more. Some people are going to be developing teams that are trying to do 100 million. Other people are still going to be doing $1 million a month or 10 million a year, or whatever. But more than that, we're focusing on how much time are you spending with your family? Is your primary relationship with your spouse or significant other healthy? How about your kids? Do they have time and attention? Are you going to the national parks and doing the things that you want to do? Are you involved in adult athletics? Are you playing on sports teams? Are you traveling? Just, are you living a life that you want to have? Because so many people think, well, being a top producer means you sacrifice everything else on the altar of that production. Where in our business, you really can, and many people would say, well, I did 50 million and I gave up everything. You didn't need to. There is a way to develop productivity that says, I do $25 to $50 million in volume a year, and I have a life that I actually want, and I don't work 80 hours a week. And that's what we work on developing within our organization. That is really part of Aslan.
Such a great message, and it speaks highly of your culture. And to lend some context to this part of the conversation, I want to read you something that I saw on your LinkedIn profile. It's one of the bullet points that you have under your bio. It says that your goal is to affect every life, every day, positively, even when it means helping people move on, to see in others more than they see in themselves, and then help them see it, illuminate the path to success. When you hear that, what do you think about?
I think about liberating greatness. You read that, and it's absolutely true. And I try to just put things out that are absolutely true. But I think about liberating the greatness that is in other people. I really do believe that we all have a spirit of greatness within us in whatever we're called to do. It's not mortgage for everyone, but it is for me. It is for the people on our team. It is for a lot of people that you talk with. And so I want to liberate that, and you can do it in such small ways. I have a number of people here at UWM right now at Success Track. One of our team is in a different class, and he said, "Does this name ring a bell?" It's someone you interviewed years ago but did not hire, but you talked to them and gave them a book, and he said it was really meaningful. I have not talked to that person in more than 5 years, and so for him to talk to one of my current team and say, "Oh, she gave me a book and she talked to me, and it was just a meaningful conversation. It actually changed my life for the better." That's what I want. That's what I want us to all be able to do. That's what I want everyone on my team to be able to do, because you talk about, or you think about the butterfly effect, and you just think about how we can all impact everyday lives in every interaction, looking for how we could have left it better than we found it, or had a positive influence on the conversation, on the communication, and on the people.
Yeah, professional and personal
Absolutely.
development. It's a very noble way to run your business and to run your life to a greater extent.
Thank you.
Part of that, you're welcome. Part of this, though, and I mentioned this in that blurb that I read from your profile, is that sometimes you have to help people understand that it's time to move on. I guess a harsher way of saying that is coach them up or coach them out.
Yes.
And that also is a part of what you do.
Yes. So if you could have been at our business development planning class for 2025, you would have seen this in action. I start out by saying to the entire team, if in this planning you find that this, first of all, is not what you love and you can't put this energy into it anymore, let's talk, because we should help you find the career, the profession that you want. And I have helped people. I've had an employee become a teacher. I've had an employee become an emergency vet tech. I had an employee go into ministry because this was not their call, and they felt a strong call to do something else. But on the flip side of that, we also have had a number of people who couldn't meet our minimum production standards. And I know that there's a lot of brokerages out there that they don't have any. We are not a place that collects licenses. You cannot have your license with Aslan and not be productive. So, and those standards exist not only to help us organizationally, but to help the individuals. I mean, we are made to be productive, creative people who are making a contribution to something. I believe that's the way our Creator made us, and that's what we're supposed to be doing. And we want to help people do that. So one, it is noble to even let people go, to move them on when they aren't serving themselves, when they are not productive. Not only are they not contributing to your pride or your tribe or your team or your family, however you reference it, they're not making an active contribution, but they're not contributing to themselves. It's bad for you to get up and not have anything to show for your day at the end of the day. And so we have a methodology, and we have a process, not only for helping people to come in to Aslan, but also for helping them to leave when it's not a fit, either because the career is really not a fit or our team's not a fit for them.
Final thought I want to get from you is just your message or your advice for other people listening to this who are, broker owners or thinking of becoming one, and they want to grow and develop productive originators themselves. And obviously a big part of what you do, Carrie, is kind of woven through the fabric of your culture. But if you were passing on a piece of advice to them, what would that be?
The first thing would be decide if it's your model. And then if it is your model, it is worth it. It's not everyone's model, but you need to be dedicated to this path and you need to be consistent in its execution. You cannot yourself be distracted by the shiny lights and the disco ball. And I see other organizations. I have an opportunity to see a lot of different brokerage models that are bigger, that they don't maybe invest so much at an individual level. That would probably be far less gut-wrenching. But this, just be invested, be consistent, stick to it, and be dedicated. Give the people the attention that they deserve if they're going to join your team under this model. And they're absolutely worthwhile to spend that time and energy on new people. Again, somebody hired us. Any broker owner that's listening to this, somebody hired you and took a chance on you at some point in your career. You're just paying that forward. You're just passing that on. And if you're going to bring that new person in, don't say, here's a desk and a phone and an internet. Say, this is how you become successful in this business. And really, there's a saying, each one reach one, right? You've probably heard that. And I've always said, each one reach 10. Each one reach 12. You have so much more capacity to teach and mentor and coach and train others that we just don't even know that we're not utilizing that capacity. But you really have to be dedicated to it, and it is definitely worthwhile.
It's a great message to share, and it's great to see just how strongly you believe in this and in your convictions.
Thank you.
So credit to you and your team, and keep up the great work. Carrie Gusmus with Aslan Home Lending, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Justin. It's been great to be here.
Thank you for watching Good Better Broker and helping us support independent mortgage brokers everywhere. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel to be notified about new videos, as well as your preferred podcast platform for a new episode every other Tuesday.